Hey everybody, welcome to the show, Round the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Wednesday evening. Got a lot of interesting news to talk about, including Paul Manafort. Update on that one. Fun stuff today. Then we're going to talk a little bit about that new book coming out about Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. So that's interesting. It should be a lot of fun. Then we're going to talk about the recent statements by the president when it comes to air travel, specifically the Boeing 737s that have been crashing. So across the country. No, I'm sorry, not across the country, across the world. We actually haven't had any of those planes crash in the United States, but they have been crashing elsewhere. Ethiopia is the latest crash, of course. And so we have an update on that as well. Then we're going to talk Don Jr. getting his ass kicked on Twitter. That's fun. Jacob Wohl, our good friend Jacob Wohl, might be in a little bit of trouble. Oh, I love that. That's fun times. And then Tucker Carlson, advertisers are leaving the show. I may have a little bit of a mixed opinion on this. As far as advertising goes, I will explain. So buckle up. Should be a very interesting show. All right. That said, let's move forward here. First, I want to give some shout-outs here for people who have signed up to be members through our Patreon program. That's patreon.com/TYTNation. First, I want to thank... I don't know if I thanked her yesterday. So if these people sound familiar, it's probably because I did, but I don't quite remember where I left off. And I'm going alphabetically, of course, through my Patreon members. So if your name hasn't been called yet, don't worry, it will be. And we'll be going through and thanking members from now on during the stream. Not only that, patrons... depending on what level of member you are, get access to the full show ad-free. So after the stream that you're watching right now, I will put that up, a link to it, ad-free for the patrons, just in case you missed a show, you want to catch up on the live streams or whatever. We'll be doing that from now on. So interesting little perk for helping the show. So that said, I want to thank Jasmine Mann, Jason Lee, Jay Stage, JCD, Jeff Curry, Jeffrey Johnson, Jenna Gibbons, just Jennifer, Jesse Singletary, Joe Andrechin, Joe Roberts, Joe Swift, and John Anzolin. So sign up, be a patron, and have me butcher your name. Fun little perk on that one. You get to hear me struggle with names. Names are hard. They're very difficult sometimes. But anyway, that said, let's go to see if we have any more channel members for YouTube. You can also sign up to be a member on YouTube and you get perks and stuff. Let's see. Let's check that right now. Let's see. Nellie Hunt is the newest channel member. Thank you for signing up. You can hit the join button if you want to join up through YouTube. I'm not sure, but you also probably get it ad-free. Can any of the members, channel members, confirm? Because I just want to be 100%, sure that is a benefit of being a channel member through YouTube, getting the show ad-free. Because I want to make sure that you guys and gals are taken care of as well. Okay. Anyway, that said, we've also had some donations through our GoFundMe campaign, anonymous donors. So thank you for that. And yes, Venmo. There's Venmo. There's PayPal. So I want to thank the people who donate through that as well. There's so many ways that you guys can help us, and there's so many ways that you have helped the show, and I can't thank you enough for doing so. All right. Before we get to the news, so you guys might have noticed that there's a little bit of a Facebook outage going on. So that's why we're not streaming on Facebook right now. Normally we do. But today, So here's the fun thing about this, right? So I use Facebook primarily for work for the show, right? So what I do is I actually I set the stories up in Facebook. So what do I want to cover? I go through and I basically make a Facebook thread about it in my own little group where only I'm a member of, right? So I set that up, and today I was actually having a lot of difficulties, and I'm like, dang, what's going on with Facebook? And then I've had a couple of friends message me, and they asked, hey, did I get zucked? And that's kind of what we call people that get put in Facebook jail. And I was thinking, I don't know, maybe you did, because now I know I make no sense right now, because I'm really, really tired. But anyway, so this friend comes to me and is like, did I get in Facebook jail? How do you know? And so I'm looking up articles, and I'm like, okay, I think it sounds like from your situation that you are in Facebook jail, but it might actually turn out to be that it's just a Facebook problems for everybody. So that's interesting, right? But anyway, fun story. A lot of people are freaking out over the Facebook thing. Again, I'm on Facebook. I usually post videos to Facebook, to our Facebook page, facebook.com/TYTNation. I'm not saying anything, but if you're on there, please give our page a follow and a like. So, I'm just saying. I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying. Anyway, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe they're being DDoSed. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens. But anyway, so let's get into the news. Let's get into some stories. We'll start out with more news on Paul Manafort. Okay. Now, coming off the heels of being sentenced in federal court for a total of 7.5 years on various charges, including bank fraud, tax fraud, conspiracy against the United States, Paul Manafort, former Trump campaign chairman, just got served again. Now, according to news reports, Paul Manafort was indicted Wednesday by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office on a year-long residential mortgage fraud scheme. That has nothing to do with what he just got sentenced on in Virginia. So, now those were federal charges. That means, of course, if Donald Trump really wanted to do so, he could try to give a pardon. Of course, that would set off a firestorm, obviously. So, right now, we don't know, right? We don't know if that's the issue. And so far, those federal charges have netted him a total sentence of about 7.5 years. So this is completely different. This is not that situation. Now we have a city, the Manhattan District Attorney, that is going after Paul Manafort on separate charges. That means he will not be eligible for a federal pardon from Donald Trump. So this could add to a sentence. Very interesting. Now, let me go to Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr., who said, quote, following an investigation commenced by our office on March 17th, a Manhattan grand jury has charged Mr. Manafort with state criminal violations, which strike at the heart of New York's sovereign interests, including the integrity of our residential mortgage market. He added, no one is beyond the law in New York. Well, I don't know about that, but let's go into the charges, right? Now, he is being charged with residential mortgage fraud in the first degree, attempted residential mortgage fraud in the first degree, conspiracy in the fourth degree, falsifying business records in the first degree, and scheme to defraud in the first degree. So, now those are some, I don't know what kind of jail time or whatever sentence could be derived from those charges, but that's a lot of charges. And so, Paul Manafort in a little bit of more trouble than he already is into. So now, of course, the interesting thing here is He's going to probably go to court again. He's going to have his due process. Of course, everybody deserves due process, even Paul Manafort. And at the end, this could add to his sentence. And so, and again, I don't know where he would serve this crime. Perhaps serve out a sentence in prison in New York. I don't know. So we'll have to see what happens in that. That's if he's, found guilty of these crimes. But Paul Manafort, the point is, too, that Paul Manafort's run-in with the law and the court system, not over yet. He's still got a lot more to go through. And so I think reading these stories, for me personally, I think it's a real bad day to be a white-collar criminal in America. I mean, normally white people skate, white rich people skate by without consequences. I mean, we have somebody who's, the president of the United States, who's likely done a lot of illegal stuff. And yet, people around him, white rich people, are getting caught doing things, and they're actually serving jail time. And yes, the first sentence was vastly reduced. The sentencing guidelines called for 20 years. He did not. He got 3.5. And then the sentencing guidelines, of course, for the other trial that had just happened, or the other conviction that had just happened, called for about 10. And he got vastly reduced on that as well, although not quite as much. And Paul Manafort, he's 69 years old, about close to 70. The guy's not going to last much longer. So I think that was a consideration for these judges, that, hey, man, the guy's going to die in prison. And for me, I think, so that, I don't care. You're a criminal, and you live your life as a criminal, and you don't have remorse over it, which is what the Judge Amy Berman Jackson continued to point out. Then guess what? You're going to be in prison like a criminal. So now, again, that's not the only thing that's happening here. And it's not connected, but I did this story earlier yesterday where we had a bunch of very wealthy and influential people that were busted for fraudulently getting their kids into top schools using bribes and lies and fabrications, including 2 high-profile actresses and even a banker. So, look, I don't know if this is a trend, but it seems like more people are paying attention to the crimes of the rich and powerful, the more they're actually getting caught and actually getting punished for doing the things that they do. So, hey, that's great. It's maybe a bad day to be a criminal, but you know what? It's not a bad day for justice. Okay. All right. Moving on. So recently there was another crash for the Boeing 737 MAX jet. Now this one happened in Ethiopia, killing 157 people on board. So that's a disaster, and it's not the first time that this specific type of aircraft has caused a crash and has, of course, led to the deaths of everybody on board. So now, following that, a lot of other countries have decided to decommission these jets and not really allow them into service anymore until these problems, these flaws are fixed. Now, up until recently, America's was one of them. In fact, Trump, yesterday, rather than advocate for improved safety and tighter regulations on planes and making sure that these planes are, up to spec and that they don't crash and kill everybody on board, the president said this: airplanes are becoming far too complex to fly. Pilots are no longer needed. What? But rather computer scientists from MIT. I see it all the time in many products. Always seeking to go one unnecessary step further. when often old and simpler is far better. Split-second decisions are needed, and the complexity creates danger. All of this for great cost, yet very little gain. I don't know about you, but I don't want Albert Einstein to be my pilot. I want great flying professionals that are allowed to easily and quickly take control of a plane. Wow. He's so dumb. You know, does he even realize that technology is one of the reasons that air travel is so much safer than it used to be in the old days? Look, it's not just me saying that. I'm not pulling this number out of my butt. This was written in the New York Times by Peter Baker. He said, though plane crash deaths did increase in 2018, probably because of this, the number of crashes is about a third of what it was back in the 1990s, and a quarter of what it was in the 1970s when things were apparently simpler. Hey, turns out sometimes older and simpler isn't better. And again, some of the reason that it is safer is because of new and improved safety technology. Wow. I know, who could have imagined that you take something and you make it a little bit more complicated, but guess what? That complication actually does help because this technology, like, for example, improved sensors and things like that and safety features, ends up making a flight safer. Weird how that works. But no, Donald Trump wants to go back to the good old days where airplanes were not as regulated, not as well regulated, and not only that, but of course, they also had less technology. Because I don't want to fly with Albert Einstein. You know, pilot training is probably a lot better than it used to be too. Oh, hey, take note, conservatives. Sometimes change can be good. And yes, there can be issues with change as well. Issues with the technology. I think in this case, there was the sensors that were going bad. So you fix those sensors. And you make sure that, hey, before you actually launch this plane, allow this to fly, make sure that it doesn't crash when the sensors go wrong. Weird. I know. I'm asking too much, apparently, out of the administration. But look, let's be honest. What does Trump know about airlines anyway? Oh, right, he had an airline. Whatever happened to that? Oh, like everything Donald Trump touches, that airline went bankrupt. Oops. Now, that was yesterday, right? So today, new details came out about what happened in the Ethiopia flight, and Trump, based apparently on these new findings, did announce that the United States will finally actually be grounding Boeing 737 MAX jets. Now, at yesterday, when this story first dropped, Donald Trump had met with Boeing executives and was like, no, I don't need to ground that plane. Really? You don't need to? But there's an obvious problem here. No, the Boeing guy, the plane guy told me everything was okay. Well, you know what? Good that he actually said, and this is his quote on it. He said, any plane currently in the air will go to its destination and be grounded upon landing until further notice. Airlines and pilots have been notified. The safety of our people is our paramount concern. Fine. You know what? That is a perfect thing to say. Great. Good. And a good decision. Wonderful. Again, I don't know exactly why I changed his mind. Could have been the data, or it could have been people being like, hey, this looks really bad. Maybe you need to ground these flights until they actually fix this issue. But hey, look, I'm glad he did so. I guess credit where credit is due, right? So I think they need to work out this issue. And overall, and sort of getting into the macro scale here, or the big picture, I think, we need to make sure that we, regulate airlines a little bit better and put safety paramount. I mean, look, if you're going to, make people take off their shoes before they get on the plane, then you should probably make regulators have to regulate when it comes to airlines and making sure that these planes are inspected and safe before takeoff. I don't think it's that much to ask, even though overall safety is actually, when it comes to flights, is actually vastly improved. As I said, I gave you that quote from the New York Times earlier, and how air travel is actually much, much safer than it used to be, unlike what President Trump seems to think. So, anyway, that's it on that. Let's move on. Okay. So Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner have been highlighted in a brand new book that shows that they've sparred a lot with many White House officials. Now, this is according to journalist Vicky Ward's new book, Kushner, Inc. Now, in the book, aides were concerned that Kushner and Trump, Ivanka, had mixed their government work and personal interests together in sort of what we would call a conflict of interest, and had lacked proper expertise for the work that they were trying to do. And to that I say, of course, no duh. Really? Oh, you just figured that out. We knew that day one. Is Jared Kushner qualified to be the Middle East guy to try to bring peace to the Middle East? No, of course not. He's not qualified for anything. He's an idiot, a buffoon. He's almost like Donald Trump, blundering everything that he's ever done. And Ivanka Trump, again, she's not qualified for anything. She may look smart, given the fact that she actually speaks in complete sentences, but in reality, she is a Trump. Not very smart. Not a very stable genius. Okay, anyway. Now, let me go through some of these conflicts with you, because they're fun. The first was with former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. Now, Rex Tillerson, not a good guy. He was the CEO of ExxonMobil. And the only reason he was in the administration was to facilitate a $500 million oil deal with Russia, which, of course, would have made ExxonMobil incredibly rich. Okay. Now, Tillerson apparently was aghast at how stupid and unqualified Kushner was. And in fact, he was very worried about Kushner's dealings with the Middle East and for Trump's endorsement of a blockade of Qatar by Saudi Arabia. Tillerson told Kushner, quote, that his interference had endangered the United States. Now, that is an unidentified Tillerson aide telling Vicky Ward. Tillerson also is said to have read, quote, negative chatter about himself in intelligence reports after Kushner had talked bad about him to Kushner's friend, Mohammed bin Salman, or as I like to call him, Mohammed Bone Salman. Gee, I wonder what that could say. Interesting. Now, look, Jared Kushner, we know he's got a relationship with MBS. And so MBS, if you didn't already know, he basically is the guy who ordered the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Jamal Khashoggi is a U.S.-based journalist, of course, that worked for the Washington Post. That guy was literally dismembered alive. So Jared Kushner being friends with that guy, not great. And, of course, standing up for Saudi Arabia and getting Donald Trump essentially to back the Saudi blockade of Qatar. And, of course, the reason for that had to do with, Qatar not actually loaning Kushner money. So that goes back to the conflicts of interest that we keep talking about. But there's more. It's not just with Rex Tillerson. It's also with former economic advisor Gary Cohn. Now, he is said to have gone after Kushner in January 2017 after it was revealed that Kushner had had a dinner with executives from a Chinese corporation. Now, this is a financial institution called Anbang, which was considering investing in the Kushner property at 666 Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. Now, that is a doomed property that was massively underwater, a ridiculous investment, And Kushner was trying to use his contacts and to use his influence in the government to try to petition foreign countries to donate not donate, but to finance his building, his tower. Now, Cohn is said to have told Kushner in front of others, quote, "You've got to be crazy." Well, crazy like a fox, apparently, because he ended up getting funding from the government of Qatar. Now, here's the thing. Kushner at the time met executives. Kushner met the executives around the time that he hosted Chinese government officials at the Fifth Avenue Tower. So again, big conflict of interest here. And according to a report by NBC News, Mueller's investigation ended up going to Kushner and looking into him because of that conflict of interest. And also from the efforts to use that power to finance that project. Okay. So now first, again, he tried going for the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Qatar. They were rejected. Later on, Qatar's neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, began a blockade, alleging that the state was a state supporter of terrorism. Trump approved the blockade because Trump, Kushner is Trump's advisor in the Middle East policy, and he worked together with Mohammed bin Salman. Now, this and other attempts to get financing for that building, 666 5th Street, from Russia, China, and Turkey have drawn investigators to scrutinize Kushner's serious conflicts of interest. Now, there's one more criticism here in the book, and this one, again, it's more fun. The couple was apparently derided by White House insiders for meddling too much and lacking the skills for good governance. Ward claims that White House staffers made fun of Kushner for trying to be the, quote, secretary of everything. And Ivanka Trump's team was labeled hobby. Now, what does that mean? What does that stand for? Home of all bad ideas. Ivanka Trump is literally known as the home of bad ideas. That's awesome. And just to top it off, former Chief of Staff John Kelly said the couple was, quote, just playing government. They don't know what they're doing. These two are idiots. They have no expertise. They have no knowledge that is useful for government. And they're just pretending that they know what they're doing. Lovely. Now, here's the final kicker, right? So, Ivanka Trump, despite all this, despite having no political experience, still not having really any experience or any idea what she's doing, envisions a Trump dynasty. Cohn told Ward, quote, she thinks she's going to be president of the United States. Ivanka Trump, the next president of the United States. Laugh along with me. President Ivanka. Hilarious. Even more so than her dad, of course, who, by the way, single-handedly ruined the Trump brand with his presidency. You think that people are going to elect daddy's girl, Ivanka Trump? She hasn't done a damn thing for herself, right? At least Donald Trump could put up the illusion that he's a successful businessman. Ivanka Trump was literally handed everything. You've got to be crazy to think that she would win. Or have your head really far stuck up your own ass. I mean, look, I don't think it's controversial to say that I don't think the American electorate will allow another Trump presidency, at least after this one. Now, maybe there's enough hangers-on to get Trump elected. I'm actually really starting to doubt that. But again, if they put up probably one of the worst corporate Democrats, then maybe he's got a good chance at re-election, right? And what's interesting enough is Donald Trump's got actually some pretty good indicators that he could win. I mean, look, an economy that is not in free fall, right? I know that some will be like, oh, it's a good economy. It's not in free fall. So I guess whatever, right? Lower unemployment, etc., right? But he is so unpopular. And the only reason that he won last time is because he had the benefit of running against someone even more unpopular than he is, which is amazing that the Democrats would pick him in the first place. Or her, sorry. So, no, imagine if the Democrats this time nominate a real progressive to run against Trump. You think there's going to be a political dynasty after that? I don't think so. Whisper of a dream. Okay. So, I'm going to take a break. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Super chats are welcome, but I'll read some member comments afterwards, after I get back. So that should be fun. And then we'll talk about Don Jr. And Jacob Wohl. So, two very, very bright people that we're going to talk about on the show. All right. So, send your comments, and we'll be right back around the nation. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, Jeff Waldorf here. Okay, so we've got some member comments that I want to share with you guys, or that you have shared with me. The Sarah says, Trump's polling still has a good chance at re-election, 43%. It really kind of depends on what polls you're looking at. So it's still really early out, and a lot of different polls vary wildly. So, for example, I'm looking at a Monmouth poll, right? So now the Monmouth poll looked at about 300 swing state districts, right? So now, let's see, 300 swing counties, I should say, which Monmouth said made up approximately 1/5 of the electorate. Just 33% supported Trump's reelection. 61% said they wanted someone else to be elected in 2020. Now, this is, of course, these are red counties, right? So these are places where Hillary Clinton did not do well. In fact, Clinton won just by 1 percentage point in these 300 swing counties. Now, look, Donald Trump does really well in red counties, 58-39, but everywhere else, not doing well. And let's be honest, I think this election was a fluke. Again, you put somebody against Hillary Clinton, right? Hillary Clinton was one of the worst candidates the Democrats could have ever fielded. Deeply, deeply, deeply unpopular. She, at this point in time, is still less popular than Donald Trump, if you can believe it. And she's been hiding in the woods. Nobody likes Hillary Clinton. So, I don't even know if Hillary Clinton likes Hillary Clinton. Or she might be the only one. Her and some of her bitter staffers and people writing at Politico. Nonetheless, I actually do think that Donald Trump has a pretty good chance of getting beaten this time. And that's something that doesn't really happen. It's very rare for a president to not serve out 2 full terms. It's very rare for someone to get interrupted. What was it? The saying, you don't change horses midstream. I heard that all the time during the Bush years. I think that there's a lot of people that are more than happy to, switch horses midstream. So that's what I think is going on. This leads me to a couple of other comments that I have. One says, from Sarge Tech says, the DNC better leave Bernie alone in 2020. They should help him, not F him up. I agree with that. And I think that the Democratic Party would be really, really stupid to turn their back on Bernie, who right now is the Democratic frontrunner. He consistently polls within the top 2. He is running. Joe Biden is not running. So at the current time, Bernie Sanders is the frontrunner for the Democratic ticket. And there's nobody that comes even close. I think it was Elizabeth Warren at 9%, and Kamala Harris at like 10%, and then Beto at like 3 or 5. I think Beto's at 5, depending on the poll. And again, this is before Joe Biden jumps into the race. Joe Biden's got a lot of baggage. Joe Biden is not going to do very well because Joe Biden never does well when it comes to a Democratic primary. He's always one of the first to drop because he's got a lot of baggage, and he said a lot of things, racist things, even back in the 70s. And I know it matters a lot what you do now and what you say now, but when that stuff comes out, as it has, it's going to be devastating to a Biden, a Biden candidacy. So Bernie Sanders, whether the establishment likes it or not, is the front runner and is the best hope to beat Trump. So, okay. And then finally, just a fun one from I For Art Magic. Jared's face makes me uncomfortable. You know what? I agree. There's a lot of things about Jared Kushner that make a lot of people very uncomfortable. So I appreciate that observation. Okay. So let's move on. Okay. And look, one more thing here, and this gets pointed out a lot. The Democrats, Hillary Clinton's team, they did use the Pied Piper strategy in order to elevate Trump. So it is a monster. They lost to the monster of their own creations. So just imagine that, right? Okay. Anyway. Now we can move on. So Donald Trump Jr. Was widely mocked on social media for tweeting out a report on air pollution. Now, this report is basically showed that air pollution tends to hurt disproportionately blacks and Hispanics. Now, his take on that was widely mocked. He said, "Just when you thought you've seen it all, now we have racist air. This insanity has to stop." Now, look, again, this is in reference to a study that found that black Americans are exposed to 56% more pollution than they cause through consumption, while Hispanics are exposed to 63% more than they add to the atmosphere. So, look, and the reason, of course, is that you have people that live in these areas that are near factories, or inner cities, a lot of cars, a lot of traffic, bigger cities, etc. So, yeah, poverty has a lot to do with where you live. So if you live in a poorer area, more than likely you're surrounded by places that put off more pollution. So, yeah, you're going to have more problems with dirty air. Now, Trump, as I said before, racist air. You realize over 100,000 Americans die from air pollution each year. That's more than car crashes and murders combined. Nonetheless, old Don Jr. here thinks it's an absolute joke. Well, in reality, the joke is him, and social media users on Twitter went to remind him of that. So I'm going to read some of the better responses here. Christopher says, "Trust me, the air in Malibu is a lot different than the air downtown." Or, for example, at Mar-a-Lago. Vicky M. WV says, "Did you even read the article? Can you read? Your dad did give a lot of money to the college you went to. Did you read there?" Oh, I love that. Because, look, we don't know for certain, but I think there's a pretty good chance that the people, like, for example, we have that college admissions scandal going on, right? Would it really be surprising that Trump's family might have done the same thing, or at least gave donations to certain colleges? That's the way to do this whole college entrance scam legally, right? So you have legacy admissions, which, again, is super, super gross, but unfortunately it is a legal way to get your kids into college, even if they're not smart enough. And that's certainly what Donald Trump's daddy did for him, because Donald Trump, not smart enough to go to college on his own. And it really is a slap in the face to the people who can't afford to go to college, but actually are smart. But anyway, moving on. Kenton Cole says, "You really are ignorant. It's obvious your daddy bought your way through school." Again. "When's the last time you saw an industrial plant surrounded by million-dollar homes? Sewage plants mixed in with wealthy homes? Yet minority homes are." And again, that's a good point, and that's another way poverty kills you. More. Aswin Periodin says, "Idiocracy was supposed to be a sci-fi movie, not actual reality." Yeah, but you guys know the plants, they crave electrolytes. That's what they crave. More. Jenny C says, "You're right. We must start dumping pollution in low-income, disproportionately minority areas. It's immoral and insane. Oh, but I forgot. You're unfamiliar with the concept of morals. Insanity, on the other hand, is an old, familiar friend." That's a good tweet. A dissident is here, says, "Let's connect the dots for the thinking impaired. NIMBY means people with wealth and power can block development of pollution-generating enterprises where they live. Neighborhoods in poverty are the default location." Bernie Bro 99, love the name. "It's not the air, dumbass. It's the corporations and politicians that enable this disparity." Dave Bratton says, "Junior, I didn't think it was possible, but you've outdone yourself with this one. Hashtag Peak stupidity. Donna says, take a day off, Junior. And let's see. LH looks at maybe making a science experiment out of this. Someone should study this guy to scientifically prove whether or not ignorance is actually bliss. Love it. And finally, Carol Davis says, are you actually saying that from the top floor of Trump Tower, you hear the same level of noise, breathe in the same level of car exhaust? I mean, I know that you're just a low-life elephant murderer, but at least you ought to know what privilege protects you, right? And again, a lot of great points here, and a lot of mocking, of course, towards Don Jr. And look, I've been confused because I don't know which one is the dumber one, Eric or Don Jr. But maybe, look, as far as IQ goes, maybe Eric is the dumber one, but he generally keeps his mouth shut. So Don Jr. might actually be more stupid because he can't help himself. So I think I've just figured it out. It's Don Jr. that's the dumber Trump kid. Okay. Anyway. Just had to share that finding now. Okay. Let's go to Jacob Wohl. So right-wing troll Jacob Wohl might be in a little bit of trouble. Now, this is according to an article by Will Sommer, writing for Right Richter, and reposted in the Daily Beast. Wohl had allegedly sent fake death threats to himself. Now, Wohl and Sommer writes, Wohl and fellow provocateur Laura Loomer recently went to Minneapolis last month to investigate whether their quest to prove that Representative Ilhan Omar had married her own brother, that's crazy, a charge based on a flimsy blog comment that has been disproven. So Wohl has been going after, just like a lot of these right-wingers, Representative Ilhan Omar. Now, of course, they can't actually go after her because, on normal things. No, they have to invent conspiracy theories. And, of course, they have to use anti-Muslim bigotry to attack her, right? I didn't even hear of this ridiculous conspiracy, which I'm actually really, really glad. Now, this isn't the only conspiracy theory, right, that they went to Minneapolis, so they're spreading about Minneapolis. Another one is that Minneapolis is an incredibly dangerous place to live. There's shooting in the streets, and there's Muslim no-go zones. Oh, it's terrible. In fact, in some of his videos, he was filmed wearing a bulletproof vest. Come on, man. Are you serious? Are you serious? But there's more. In another video, and this is the one that he might be in trouble for, Wohl went to a Minneapolis police station to report that he had received death threats since arriving in the city. Now, these death threats were not in person. These death threats were apparently on Twitter. Now, one of those alleged threats came from a direct message from an account called Drake Holmes 612. Now, Drake Holmes 612 described himself as a, quote, Minneapolis diversity coordinator. Oh, I'm a diversity coordinator, and I'm going to threaten Jacob Wohl. Really? Is that what's going to happen? Now, I want to read the threat here, and there's a lot of swear words in this one, so I'm just going to ignore that. It said, I hope you effing know that if I bump into you in Dinkytown or anywhere else in my city, I'm going to shoot you and do something very terrible to your bodies. The account wrote, get the F out of my city, you piece of crap, now. Well, that would appear to be a very specific threat. If I see you around, I will shoot you and I will do terrible things to your bodies. Yeah, okay. Now, specific but credible. Is it credible? It would appear not to be. following a little bit of an investigation. According to journalist Tony Webster, at Drake Holmes 16 is one of many of the fake accounts Wohl created in the run-up to his Twitter ban. In fact, a source familiar with Wohl's fake accounts confirmed that Drake's Holmes 16 was run by Wohl before being deleted by Twitter. And now what he used that account for is actually to try to get Donald Trump reelected. So that account was active and then got deleted. Oops. So you know what this means? Jacob Wohl got caught sending death threats to himself. Allegedly. So, what a smart guy. These right-wingers are super, super intelligent people. Now, in a police report obtained by the Daily Beast, Wohl is described as giving police some printed tweets as evidence. The report doesn't list which exact tweets he gave to police, but we know he gave them something, right? So, what were they? Well, according to one of Jacob's friends, or former friends, this is, what is it? Activist Ali Alexander. Now, Ali Alexander organized Wohl's trip to Minneapolis and went with him to the police station. And he posted a video early on Wednesday trying to distance himself from Wohl. In that video, he claims that Wohl showed the fake direct messages from that account to the police. The level of self-ownage here is fantastic. I love it. But again, Jacob Wohl is not known as being a very smart person who makes good decisions. And in this case, he apparently opened himself up to criminal penalty. And, as I mentioned before, his friends, Ali Alexander and Laura Loomer, they're like, yeah, oh, see you later, Jacob. Good luck with that one, sir. Have fun. Now, Loomer, she's like, I didn't go to the police station. I wasn't involved with the report. I didn't do any of this. I'm not involved at all. Please don't arrest me. I didn't do this. It's all Jacob Wohl's fault. He did it. Okay. And as I said before, Ali Alexander. Now, what's funny is that in that documentary, where you see them going to the police station, right? Ali Alexander compared Wohl to both Batman and Iron Man. But then said, after this happened, he may be a bad actor. Quote, I don't know what's going to happen, but man, it doesn't involve me. And I'm pretty excited about that. That's a quote for the ages, man. Oh, whatever's going on, it ain't me. And I'm super excited it ain't me. Hey. Yeah, some friend you are, dude. Wow. Wow. He also added this about Wohl. Quote, it confirms that he's not operating at a level where there's useful misinformation, but kind of stupid, vanity-filled, ego-fueled disinformation. And that won't look good for Jacob. Understatement of the century, man. So here we go again. Conservatives hilariously cucking themselves. When will they ever learn? Okay. You know what? I don't think I have... shit. I don't know if I have enough time for this story. It's Tucker Carlson. All right. Screw it. We're going to do it. So hopefully you guys are looking to stay late from TYT. I know some of you won't, but some of you might. Because this is a fantastic story. Okay. So advertisers are now running away from Tucker Carlson's show following those statements that were released by Media Matters. Now, these comments were made about women and minorities during appearances on Bubba the Love Sponge's radio show between the years of 2006 and 2011, back when he was working at both Fox and MSNBC as a contributor. Now, look, you guys heard the tapes. Some of them had him calling women the C word, saying that women are primitive, and then it's almost as if this is a theme here, but calling the Iraqi people semi-literate monkeys. And basically saying, no, that's the reason that I'm anti-war, that I don't want to invade them, is because they're not worth our time. They're semi-literate, right? So now following all that, Tucker's advertisers are not happy. Betting and sleepwear company Shinx reportedly said on Tuesday that it will no longer be running advertising on Tucker's show. They said our advertising placement should never be construed as an endorsement of the views of any individual, program content, or network. However, due to the inappropriate statements of Carlson that have recently come to light, Shinx has made the decision to cease advertising on his television program. Now, Tucker's not the only one facing an advertiser pullout. You also have Fox host Jeanine Pirro. Now, this comes after the statements that she made about Ilhan Omar involving the hijab, right? So now you have, you even had Fox News that put out a statement against this. It was that bad. And you have Let Go, an online marketplace that is also no longer going to advertise on Pirro's show, as well as Carlson's. Novo Nordisk also pulling out, and NerdWallet. NerdWallet had pulled out of Tucker Carlson's show before, after anti-immigrant rhetoric had come out, and now they're pulling from Pirro's show as well. So now, I may be actually a little bit mixed on this. I know this is the way that Bill O'Reilly lost his show, right? But, I kind of feel like this is sort of... And look, what O'Reilly has done and said is terrible. And what Tucker Carlson, no doubt, has said this. Has said terrible things, right? And so, what the question is here, is it all right to go after people's advertisers? Now, look, Tucker Carlson, he's going to be fine, right? If he loses his show, he's going to be fine. He's a trust fund baby. Self-described trust fund baby. The guy's already has millions of dollars. He's going to be fine. But I always worry when this happens. Because I've had my own issues with advertisers, right? Not me personally, but on YouTube itself. We've had demonetization. We've had advertisers pull out from YouTube because of things that generally the right wing has done. And left-wing progressive channels always tend to suffer that way. And so I'm always worried about this because you go after people's source of funding, and I guess it has a way to shut down conversation. Not that you can really have a good conversation with Tucker Carlson, although some people would argue differently because he is doing this everyman shtick. I don't necessarily believe it, but I'm not somebody who believes in shutting down conversation. So, again, I'm a little mixed on this, and you guys can disagree with me or you can agree with me, and that's 100% fine. But I just always get a little bit wary when people lose advertisers and end up losing their show. So I guess maybe it comes from self-interest because I don't want the same thing happening to me. And at least I'm honest about that, right? And yes, there's a little bit of self-motivation in this. But not only that, but I also do believe in actual free exchange and a free marketplace of ideas. And so I said the same thing when, Alex Jones lost his YouTube channel. Not exactly, in favor of people being deplatformed and losing that. And again, you guys can disagree because Jones was a dangerous voice, and so is Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is literally standing for white supremacy. And so that's not good speech. But you know what? You can't shut it down just because we disagree. We challenge it with ideas, and we challenge it with truth, facts, and honesty. And that's just where I come from, and that's what I believe. Okay. That's it. That's all we got here. Thank you for going on the Nation with me today. Thank you. I appreciate it. All the messages and all the support and everything like that. You guys are awesome. We'll be back tomorrow. Another great show. So thanks for joining me today. And we'll see you then. TYT is next. And remember, love you guys. And change begins with you. Good night, Nation. See you tomorrow.